Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we got a video from Bellular News. I have trouble saying that. This video is about stop killing games. Let's just get right into it.
Ubisoft's decision to delist the crew keeps coming back to bite them, and now they are being sued by one of the largest consumer rights groups in France, who say that Ubisoft cheated their customers. And if that sounds familiar to you, well, yeah, you're right. This is a
Well, yeah, because you pay for a game, you should not lose access to that game. That's the problem with digital right now. Is what you're paying for is access to the game. You're not actually paying for a physical copy of the game. So when they turn the servers off, that's it.
exactly what started Stop Killing Games. And that's exactly why Stop Killing Games are backing this group. What this also is a big escalation for Stop Killing Games. And if the case succeeds, then, well, consumer gaming as a medium will be utterly changed. First, let's get you up to speed. So since the last time we checked in, Stop Killing Games has basically gone institutional. The European Citizens Initiative signatures have been delivered, and the group has shown up at the European Parliament for the first time. They've established
Yeah, they needed like 10 million signatures or 10,000 signatures, something like that. Last time we heard about Stop Killing Games, for the majority of the timeline, they did not get the signatures they needed, and then it was in like the last couple days they got more signatures than what they needed, which gave them a chance to meet with the European Commission and push their agenda.
formal NGOs, one in Europe, another in progress in America, and they're describing themselves as, quote, a global non-profit platform for digital sovereignty, consumer rights, and the preservation of games. So this is more than just a petition, it is an actual advocacy movement that is becoming legit across the world, and that means that they can back other groups who are going after similar things, like the French consumer group that just launched a lawsuit against Ubisoft. Now, if I've learned one thing in my life, it's don't mispronounce French things. It really drives them mad. So I'm going to call this consumer advocacy group UFC, because it's in their name, and I kind of find that funny. So, the UFC are suing Ubisoft for shutting down the crew in 2024. That's 10 years, of course, after the game came out. And the whole lawsuit comes down to one question. A little bit of an asterisk, it's machine translated, and it puts it like this. Does the purchase of a video game in physical or digital format allow players to claim, at a minimum, a right of use? Here's the key bit, everyone. Totally independent of the sole will and authorization of the publisher.
The purchase of a video game, like the purchase of a movie in physical or digital format, it does allow people to claim a right of use. But with the way terms of service are for games, from publishers, for movies, streaming platforms like Amazon and Netflix, is it only gives you a right to access that, which can be revoked at any time by the company. Which, if you're paying for it, like, okay, Netflix, you're paying for the service. You're not actually paying for each individual movie. So that's a little different. Just like, what is it? Game Pass from Microsoft. You're paying for the service. So at any time, Xbox can remove a game from that service and not have any consequences. But if you're paying 70, 80, 90, over $100 for access to a digital game, then that should allow the players to claim a right of use totally independent of the sole will of the publisher. That I agree with the UFC Q. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. But this French organization that's suing Ubisoft, they are on the right track. It's just going to be a matter of how long is it going to take and what needs to be done in order to get it changed.
That's the key bit. You see, right now, most stores sell games as licenses, not products. And that means that if the company decides, they can just revoke the license. And UFC-QC wants to prove whether that is actually legal or not. And to do that, they're going after specific clauses in Ubisoft's license. So let's discuss what they're actually challenging here. There are clauses that let Ubisoft, quote, deny consumers ownership rights over acquired game copies, shut the game down without offering any alternative, that require online services that can be interrupted, and to refuse refunds on any purchases players made inside the game. They are also going after deceptive business practices, alleging the players were never warned that they could lose access. So what they want is a legal answer to these questions, once and for all. Now, it's not the first time that Ubisoft's licenses have been challenged, and it's not the first time that this specific group has even taken on a major gaming company. So to understand what's going on, we should probably talk about what they've already done. But to do that, we're first going to fly over to the good old USA. So, last year, a US class action lawsuit was filed over The Crew. This went down in February 2025, and it landed on two of the same arguments: that players were not warned about losing access, and that Ubisoft revoked access to what players had been treating as property, not merely a license. And Ubisoft's defense there kind of tells us exactly what is coming. Ubisoft said that players never had, quote, unfettered ownership rights in the game. That the physical and digital versions both made it clear that the game needed online servers and that Ubisoft could shut those servers down, and that further to those arguments, precedent was actually on their side in the US. Now, that is thanks to a 2011 ruling over whether Square could take down a Final Fantasy XI account, basically take it away from a player who broke terms of service. Now, obviously,
I can see this from both points. Publishers need room on the server. Server capacity can only hold so much. I know even with cloud, it still can only be a certain amount. I could see it from the publisher side that they need to close out older games that use online services and make way for the new. There should be, though, an option where you could play it single player on offline modes. So if a publisher knows that they're going to shut down a game like The Crew, they should have given the option that, hey, you can no longer access the online servers. We need the room for, Crew 2 or something like that. Just giving an example here. So you have the option to where you could play it single player, and we're going to release a free update to everybody that enables single player mode.
the US law is not EU law, but looking at this, we can literally see Ubisoft's defense. We basically know their playbook. And if anyone is ready for a fight against that playbook, it is actually UFC-QC. Back in 2020, the target was Nintendo. It was Joy-Cons and planned obsolescence. And they say that their complaint kicked off a chain of action that eventually saw the European Commission and Nintendo extend warranties beyond the legal guarantee. And that was a huge win. Let's just all be honest for a second. The situation with the Switch Joy-Cons was absolutely goddamn absurd. They knew those problems existed for years upon years upon years, and they knew that they would just make a shitload of money over people rebuying Joy-Cons. That was absolute scumbag behavior. Whew, that got me fired up. Anyway, that's one thing UFC-QC did pretty well at. But there's another thing.
Wait, I had no idea the original Switch Joy-Cons were facing so many problems. I bought an original Switch. I have a Switch 2 now that I'm playing Pokemon. But I bought the original Switch maybe about a year after it came out. I never had a problem with the Joy-Cons. Maybe I was just a lucky one or something, but I don't know. I never even knew that Nintendo was sued by this UFC-QC, and they were having problems with the Joy-Cons.
In 2024, a legal complaint against Activision over unexplained player bans in Call of Duty.
Well, Activision, yeah.
Year, they also pushed for changes to virtual currencies alongside other European consumer groups, following demands for change from EA back in 2022. And that push, as we've covered in this channel, did actually move the needle at the European Consumer Organization. So they've done a lot of stuff, they've had plenty of wins, but they don't always win. In 2024, the French Supreme Court actually ruled against them over whether Steam players could resell their games, and the court cited a 2019 EU ruling on ebooks. Yeah, as it turns out, digital copies could not be resold, and Valve's license terms were basically consistent with that. Now, I should say the rationale behind that ruling was actually quite narrow. It was about reselling digital goods that cannot deteriorate. It wasn't about the bigger ownership questions that we've been dealing with in this video. But win or lose, UFC-QC are clearly not afraid of a fight. And at this point, they are pushing well past where Stop Killing Games have gone. It's not just us saying they're going beyond Stop Killing Games. Ross Scott, Stop Killing Games' founder, actually makes the same point in his video. He says that this case is, quote, pushing the Overton window in some respects. As he points out, Stop Killing Games haven't actually asked for legal requirements to keep games running after live support ends. Not yet, anyway. This lawsuit is one that goes way further than that, and it's making the labeling argument as well. So that's the one basically saying that Ubisoft never warned people that the game could be taken away. Now, Ross is not convinced that that one is a clear win, and I think he's basically right. But they are still backing this group. They're backing UFC-QC, and they're doing so materially. You see, this case has been in the works for over a year, and Stop Killing Games say that they have data and receipts from their French supporters that actually helped get the suit off the ground. And here is what a spokesperson described the move as to us. A step up in ambition and impact, not just continuation of the previous public goals. We have become a movement now, and with the NGO, we have bigger plans for the gaming industry. I'm sure there's a few people in the gaming industry who are not particularly happy about that, but this really would be a step up in plans. What they're pushing for here would genuinely upend how this industry works. It's basically this: should one of the world's biggest economies treat games as products or treat games as licenses? Now, that could put the EU completely...
Games should always be treated as products and not as licenses. You sell a license and then you remove that license without any warning or anything, you alienate your fans. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who love the crew and played it religiously, and then Ubisoft came out and just was like, well, now you can't play it anymore, the game's completely done. They alienated a lot of people from that, I'm sure. There's probably people who were looking forward to buying another Ubisoft game, another racing Ubisoft game, and they said no because they could remove it at any time.
Completely out of step with the rest of the world, who have erred on the side of the licenses. I mean, think about what Steam had to do in 2024, where they actually added a warning to the storefront that you are buying a license. And Steam did that for all of us because a California law required it. So would they have to go even further with, say, the EU? What does it even look like for a library of thousands of games? And there's a real question about what sorts of things would break if this succeeds. Right now, you see, companies use license terms to moderate players, banning cheaters, removing abusive users. Now, if games are products and not licenses, does it get harder to ban someone? Now,
it does get harder to ban somebody if it's a product and not a license, but again, at the same time, if it's a single player game, who cares? Let him cheat. In the words of Asmongold, ABC, always be cheating. If it's an online game, then yeah, okay, I can kind of understand it. At the same time, though, earlier games like take Call of Duty Black Ops 1. They were banning cheaters and stuff back in the day in that game, and that was sold as a product, not a license. So it is doable, but these companies will have to invest more money and look at workarounds for banning in products instead of banning in licenses. There's a way to do it.
a Stop Killing Games spokesperson told us that they see it differently, that whoever runs the servers still does get to enforce the rules, regardless of how a game is classified. But considering UFC-QC already brought a complaint against Activision over exactly those kind of bans, well, you could see where this could all get a bit complicated. We're now speculating because nobody's actually done this before, and this ruling would essentially lock in the status quo or force companies into something that is completely new. And even if the status quo wins, that does just make the law itself the next target. And of course, that is a fight that Stop Killing Games have now built themselves for, and it's exactly where they'll go. Okay, so after this case plays out, and remember, it will be appealed, there will be some clarity. Either companies can keep doing what Ubisoft did, or they'll have to deal with an entirely new set of rules. But this is just one front of a broader thing. Stop Killing Games' complaint to the French Consumer Protection Agency is still with that regulator. The European Citizens Initiative gets its hearing at the European Parliament on April 16th this year. And in many ways that's a big one because
Oh
it's
shit,
their shot
that's
to make
today.
their case
No,
directly
sorry,
to
that's in a few
legislators.
days.
And with funding from developers like Alderon Games, partnerships with UFC-QC and Does It Play, the infrastructure is actually there now. So Stop Killing Games is not going anywhere. And this is something that started off with a YouTube video and a petition. It's now evolved into lawsuits, parliamentary hearings, and institutional lobbying across multiple countries. So the question isn't whether the games industry will have to reckon with this. They will have to reckon with it. The real question is how long they can put it off, and how much they can use the various processes in various countries to slow these efforts down. So expect many appeals over...
I give it at least 5 to 10 years, and this whole thing will be completely done. Companies will have to I give it about 5 or 10 years, and then it'll be completely over with. The lawsuits will be done, and companies will have to figure out a new way how to go around. And these products, these digital products, will start being sold as actual products and not as licenses. I say 10 years tops. It could happen before then.
Many years, and if you're someone who expected a lot of the Crimson Desert, like noise and anger and, these people versus those people, etc., to kind of be a load of bullshit that says more about people than it does the actual game, you should watch this video next. The whole story of that game is fascinating, and talking about it...
Yeah, I might actually watch that about Crimson Desert. Well, yeah, I give it about 10 years, and UFC-QC and Stop Killing Games most likely will have it changed. Maybe not by the law, but they might force companies into a corner where companies decide just to change it themselves. I could see a company coming out and just being the first one to do it and say, you know what, we're selling this as a product. We're not going to go through this. We know we could be sued if we sold it as a license. It's going to take that one company to step forward and just make the change themselves. And every other company is going to start following suit. It's always like that. But I hope you guys appreciate the video. If you do, remember, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and stay tuned as we keep covering gaming news, world news, and a lot of other stuff going on.